All right, let's get started with a rant. Cole, you know what? I won't even intro this. Cole, take us away.
Look, I'm sorry. Okay, there have been a lot of things that have gone on in my life this week that I can just tell you it's not been fun. This has not been things that like I've wanted to enjoy or having to defend. And I really don't want to defend the SEC because if you know, as the SEC homer on the channel, I'm supposed to quote unquote support my conference because that's what people like to say, like TJ Pittenger and Danny Cannell, that we all come together and just support the SEC, even though the half the SEC teams just kind of ride the coattails of Alabama, LSU, and Georgia for the last decade. Um, this is not my Alabama fandom coming out either. This is just me being completely honest. Auburn, what the hell are you doing? Auburn, what the hell are you doing? So yesterday it was announced that Auburn is recognizing 7 other unclaimed national titles. And it goes from 1910 all the way to 2003. 2004. And we heard Tommy Tuberville come out and say, congratulations to the 2004 Auburn Tigers for winning the national championship. I know that our team was good enough to win the national title this year. And then you talk about some other teams from the 1930s and some teams from the 1950s. And I understand people got to realize that before the BCS era, they just had games to where they were voted on. They were unclaimed national titles. Alabama has multiple unclaimed national titles. They didn't play a game to go ahead and secure the victory. They just claimed it. And so we talk about Auburn doing the exact same thing. We've seen Michigan do this. We've seen Ohio State do that. Like multiple teams have unclaimed national titles and they share the absolute title with another team. But we're in 2025, people. What the hell are you doing trying to call back to the day of when it was like, oh, our team being good? On top of already making this all about you deciding to finally retire Cam Newton's number, then you throw in the unclaimed national titles. You know what this feels like at this point? You're doing everything to avoid what is currently going on at Auburn. That
Yeah.
this is going to be a lost season. So here, instead of looking this way, it's like you're distracting a child when you're trying to go ahead and get them to take a photo like a toddler. Hey, look this way. Hey, 7 unclaimed national titles. Hey, remember Cam? Remember when he had number 2? Retire his number, build him the statue. We're doing all those things. And you're doing it to take the pressure off of what actually is this season. And you know what the bottom line is? I understand that we're sitting here and we're complaining about Auburn doing this. I'd complain about any school doing this. Because you want to know why I'm complaining about this? The team that Auburn lost to in 2017, the UCF Knights, decided to claim a national title after beating them in the Peach Bowl and going undefeated. They celebrated at Disney World. They had a parade. They watched as everybody said, we were the champs. We deserved our spot in the playoff. And we eviscerated them. We clearly made fun of them, relentlessly bullied them into finally saying, you know what, we're not going to actually claim that anymore, to where they had to make the change. I'm going to do the same thing with Auburn. Auburn, this is dumb. This is dopey. This is ridiculously stupid. And the reason why, it has nothing to do with the fact that maybe your teams were good enough. It has everything to do with the fact that in 2025, we're not just giving out participation trophies. The reason why we don't complain about it with Alabama is because Alabama did this back in the day when it was fine to do it.
Yep.
Now it's because of it's 2025 and you're trying to find a reason to sell the identity of the program when you know this is a prove-it year, when you know this is so much more at stake, and then all the other comments have been going on off the field, whether it be the 3 different personnel members calling offensive plays, whether it be Hugh Freeze saying, and I know what he meant by it, but still, it's just a bad look for a headline. All 3 quarterbacks may play. I get it. It's because if you have certain design plays for Daniels and you have certain design plays for Deuce Knight, but Jackson Arnold's going to be your QB1. It doesn't help when we hear reports coming out that Jackson Arnold isn't struggling. So, you're taking all of these things that are so negative and trying to put a positive spin on it. It doesn't work. You're living in the past. You really are truly, kid you not, living in the past by going and claiming these unclaimed national titles. And by the way, Tommy Tuberville, after deciding to ruin a program like Texas Tech and Cincinnati and is currently trying to find his best way of ruining the United States government, you coming out here and saying that Auburn deserved to win the national title when there clearly was a game that was played between 2 teams that did play and won the national title is also ridiculous. You know who doesn't claim the national title? The team that lost in the national title. They don't. So I'm sorry, Auburn. If you really want people to start believing in you once again and thinking that the program is in a good state of mind, don't do dumb things like this. Sincerely. It's nonsensical, and more importantly, it is just a bad look on your face. Nobody is going to claim it. Nobody's going to celebrate you. Nobody is going to honor it. We're all just going to go ahead and point and laugh and continuously make fun of people who believe that the Auburn Tigers actually have 11 national titles attached to their name.
Yeah, you mentioned UCF, and I thought that was your best. I mean, that was a 10 out of 10 rant that we've gotten from Cole. Maybe one of the best. You can tell it's game week. Listen, we all gave UCF so much crap when they did it, but at least they did it that year. Could you imagine if UCF did it, like say Scott Frost and them go 4-8 this year, right? Which look at their Vegas win total, right? It's not too far off from that. Say they have a terrible year with Scott Frost coming home, kind of what they're pinning all their hopes and dreams on. And then they do this for 2017, like next year, right? Going into the 2026 season. That's what it's like to me. UCF at least did it in the moment. And at least did it like while it was happening. And it was corny then. They've retracted. Like, yes, all those things. But I think this is so much worse. Like going back to the early 1900s to try and score a win. You know, I'll tell you this. Florida State didn't play football from 1906 until 1946. We should claim those 40. We didn't lose one game for 40 years. Now, we didn't have a program, but give me 40 more titles. We are ahead of everyone at this point. And so, yeah, it is so hilarious, and it reeks of. I don't think the Cam Newton thing in and of itself is that big of a deal. Like you hear a lot of that stuff like right before a season starts, they'll do stuff like this. And
deserved all the number twos to be retired in college football this year. This one actually makes sense.
I'd put Shedeur maybe slightly ahead, but
oh my God,
Cam Newton lost less games at Auburn than Shedeur did in 1 year. So. Then the Cam thing is fine in and of itself, but to do this right before a season start, I mean, this is a February move. If you're really going to do this, I mean, which you shouldn't anyway.
Well, that's the thing. You just shouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's like speeding it through a school zone on the first day of school, right? Like you want to speed through a school zone like in May, like, all right, man, like do your worst. Everyone's looking at Auburn like, dude, are y'all going to be for real this year? Are you going to be legit, or is Vandy going to beat you again? Right? Is Pavia going 5-0? Like,
What it says to me is that it's far worse of a situation at Auburn than we realized, and that it's not just a Hugh Freeze coaching staff issue. This is an athletic department issue because one does not make the decision without the other, and this is a complete lack of self-awareness by the Auburn athletic department to even allow this to be a thought that makes it out.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness.
The main Wi-Fi.
And it was going to be such a good quote. I was so excited.
Yeah, I'm not moving on. I want to know what he says.
I refuse to move on until he's back. I refuse. Yeah. Okay. I saw this stat today, or I heard this stat, and I want to give credit where credit's due. Brooks Austin called it out. I think it was the 1910 season for Auburn. Auburn had a worse record than Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt could claim a national title, and Vanderbilt, the program that has been the laughingstock, dumping doormat of the SEC for over 5 decades, is still beyond willing to say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to hold out hope. You know what? We know that it's wrong. We know this is not right.
I watched Brooks's. Yeah, Brooks talked about how crazy it was in that clip, but then he talked about how this is just goofy, right? And not to, you mentioned dopey, and he mentioned goofy, and not to give UCF a hard time with all the Disney puns, but yeah, it's a
Mickey Mouse championship for you.
It is rather hilarious to hear this. Now, if Auburn would have been beating this drum for 20 years, right, from 2004 until now, I think you'd say, listen, that's their take and that's fine. But to do it today, 20 years later, posthumous of the death of their program, is funny to me. Tom, I think you're just a black screen right now. You may have to jump out and jump back in if you can hear me. I'll shoot him a text. Man, I really don't want to move on.
I was so excited to hear what he had to say. I was so excited.
It's never mind. I'm not going to make that joke, but I want to ask you this until Tom gets back in fully. How much when covering the SEC? I really just wanted to know this. I meant to ask you a couple of days ago when we were just talking about other stuff off air. How much, does your Alabama, do you have any Alabama pride? Or do you just try and suppress it? Do you try and do you try and be unbiased? Are there times where you let it shine through? Like, what's your motto on that? While we're on Auburn, let's give them another reason to hate you.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? No, I mean, the bottom line for me is that I've always, because of my journalism background, like actually being in the journalism department and learning how to be an unbiased reporter, I've always had that mentality. Like, I remember when I joined the Crimson White in 2013, it was very clear that, like, hey, hope your fandom was fun because now that's over. Now you got to just be a unbiased reporter. And certainly there are times that I will weigh in my decision of Alabama versus insert team here. I believe that they're just better on paper, but I never let it completely control what is the narrative of the game. Like I thought last season, Alabama, despite having wins over Georgia and wins over LSU, they were the least deserving team of the three that were in the race for the 9-3 season to go to the college football playoff. They would have gotten in because they have the head-to-head win over South Carolina, but I said on multiple occasions, South Carolina played better football last season than Alabama. Ole Miss didn't play Alabama, and they have a win against South Carolina. And they also have a couple of games that were really much in their favor. So it's hard for me to doubt them. So I don't allow it to affect the way that I feel. What I will say is that with Alabama being the standard, Alabama doing something like this in 2025 would have definitely been ridiculed, and fans wouldn't have expected this. Fans right now want to freaking fire Kalen DeBoer after one season of missing the playoff for losing to Vanderbilt. And remember, this is a guy that's coming on in and replacing the greatest coach of all time. That's going to be challenging to say the least.
Yeah, I'll say this too. I know you didn't ask. I try and do the same thing with FSU, but I do make it very well known that I like them and I'm pulling for them on stuff. But I'm not even really more from the journalistic standpoint, just more like my own integrity. Like I don't know, just trying to call it like you see it, right? And I think you can have. I do think that's kind of where we're in this not weird, but just this different landscape of what media and content is to where I never went down the journalist route. So that part hasn't been like beaten out of me. And I think it's fine to still say like, look, I'm a fan of this, but I'm not so much a fan that I'm going to sugarcoat when they do things that are idiotic or I'm going to try and hype up something that's not good or whatever. I do think that my bias comes out more often than maybe yours does or anything else like that.
Welcome back.
I think just trying to like kind of stay true to like, I don't know who you are. Not that there's anything wrong with having biases. Some of the best people that I follow, I put a thread out on Twitter today of there are a ton of massive homers in there for their team. I don't have a problem with that. Like, great, be a homer. But I do think we're kind of in this space now that it allows that so much more than like 15 years ago, right? Where 15 years ago, you had to just be so black and white and boring and you could never say the word we or anything like that, you know, or they just lynch you at that point. So anyway, Tom, you had a point on Auburn that we've been killing time for 3 minutes on now.
Back now, is my audio working? Is everything?
Hi, welcome. You sound delightful.
Thank God. Okay, great. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't know. Just overall, to me, this feels like Miami football circa 5 years ago, where it was like, hey, what in the world are they doing? It just felt wildly disorganized, and it wasn't just a football problem. It was an athletic department problem. I think on top of Hugh Freeze being on the hot seat in terms of wins and losses, some of the insane quotes that he puts out there in terms of length and girth and such. And then the questions about his quarterback. You guys know how I feel about even hiring DJ Durkin in the sport. On top of, okay, they have to win this year and they have all these talented recruits and all these solid players that they think they can make a run with. And you put this out there and you're just adding to the pile of bad PR. And you would think at some point an adult would step in and say, we're going to stop the bleeding. We have to repair and maintain and improve the image of Auburn football. And here's the thing. If Hugh Freeze gets ousted by the end of this year, somebody else of high profile ilk is going to take this job because there's a ton of money that goes along with it. But I don't know if that person's going to be set up for success. That's the tragedy, I'll use that word, about Auburn football, because this is a great program. This is a program that has won a national championship, has had a Heisman Trophy winner, all those sorts of things. It is a storied program. So you want to see it succeed. It's for the betterment of the conference and of the sport. But right now, it just feels like this is a athletic department problem, not just a football problem. And that's worse.